Well, hello, and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curless Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. And before we do anything else, I'm very happy to welcome back to the channel. It's becoming quite a regular on my channel, which is just pleases me to no end. Mr. Davey Cretin. How are you, Davey?
Excellent. Thanks for having me back, Tom. It's been a little while.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. It's been life's been getting in the way, and we're both busy on YouTube on doing all sorts of stuff. So
Yep. Busy at work, busy with family stuff, the holidays. So,
yes, yes, that's true too. It's all that other stuff too, right? Exactly. So we always say life gets in the way,
precisely.
and sometimes that becomes like a band mantra. Like I'm in, when I play with musicians, and it's like you always want to play as much as you can, but life sometimes gets in the way. So that's just the way it goes. YouTube's the same way. So, um, but um, but anyway, I before we do anything else, we are here to talk about the Cars and specifically the third record, Panorama. So some people, yeah, I'm gonna hold it up. Let's go. Here it is. Um, Now some people talk about the difficult second album. With the Cars, it's the difficult third album.
Yes, definitely.
you know so but before we get too far into that, let's talk about the first time that you remember hearing. When was the first time did you what was the first song you heard from Panorama? Was it Touch and Go?
Touch and Go on the radio. Yes, because that was the pre-release single from the record.
Yeah, yeah. And we always talk about this. We talk about this a lot because we share this experience of the two rock stations in New York, at WNEW and WPLJ, and they played the crap out of Touch and Go, if I remember right.
Yes,
Because
but not much else from this record.
no, that's true. That is true. You're right, absolutely. But I do remember, like, I actually at that point in my life, I owned a boombox with a cassette player. I think it had a dual cassette, so it was really fancy at the time. And I remember waiting and like hearing the song and being like, record, where you heard the synth come in and it was like you hit the record, Um, so I had that on a tape. I had that on a cassette, and I used to listen to that just over and over again because I just love Touch and Go. So good. So good.
I bought the vinyl when it came out.
Yes. Did you? Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think I bought it fairly quickly. I don't think I bought it right away. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely a dark horse. I always say like this, some albums have this definition of dark horse. You look up dark horse album in the dictionary. This might be one of them because it's kind of a record that is difficult, definitely more difficult than the first two. And but I think that like diehard fans like really like, and with time it's been reappraised. It's one of those kind of records that people are like, oh, because it really, when it came out, it got pretty bad reviews actually.
Yes.
It got kind of savaged a little bit. Is that true? Didn't it get some
Yeah,
pretty?
from what I see online, it wasn't reviewed that well.
No, no. They were
It's
like,
not.
oh,
They
this
said it's not
album's
as catchy. It's not as upbeat. It's depressing.
it's kind of
Too
boring.
experimental. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no immediate hooks like on the first two records, so they got beaten up for this record.
Yeah. It almost felt like, I was thinking about this before we got on the camera. It's like this might have been the album where, like critics get to the point where like, okay, you've had too much success. It's time to bring you down a notch. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it's your time to get beaten up. It's kind of felt like that a little bit. Like, because their first two albums were just phenomenal and just got, sold like crazy and were so successful. It was almost like, okay, you've had enough success. Let's beat you down a little bit. Yeah.
And as our friend Grant says, they're like mirror images of each other, the first and second album.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true.
You could
Because
pair them
Candio,
together.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we've talked about, you go back on this channel. We talk about both of those records, and they're both just excellent. I mean, they're just both amazing. The debut and Candio are just excellent records. So it's almost like they get punished for being so good. It's almost like, I mean, you get an A plus. Like, you can't get better than an A plus. It's like at some point you're going to get punished for being so good. Um, But I always say there's no such thing as a bad Cars record. So that's another
Correct.
thing, right? So let's level set as well. So anyway, let's do a quick rundown and then I'm going to hand it over to you. So the rundown on Panorama, released August 15th, 1980, recorded April to May of 1980 at Cherokee and Hollywood and the Power Station in New York. Some pretty big studios at this point. Um, of course, were produced again by Roy Thomas Baker, so it's the third one in a row. And it was obviously released on Elektra. The singles, as we mentioned earlier, the first one was Touch and Go. Second single was Don't Tell Me No. I think you mentioned that as well. And Give Me Some Slack. So those were the three singles from this record. But to your point, I don't ever remember hearing Don't Tell Me No or Give Me Some Slack anywhere at the time.
Right. Maybe the title track on rock radio.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think we did. Yeah. Panorama did. Yeah. I think you're right. So yeah, so that's a great transition into the first track on the record. So what's your take on Panorama? I think it's an interesting way to start the album.
Well, if I could just give a couple more stats.
Sure. Sure.
The chart action in a couple of places around the world. In the US, it reached number 5 and certified platinum. In Canada, it hit number 10. The year-end charts in Canada, number 55. In Australia, number 19. New Zealand, number 14. Japan, number 69. The cover design was by drummer David Robinson, and he did that a lot for the Cars records. And of course, just to line up quickly, David Robinson on backing vocals, regular drums, and there's definitely some electronic drums on this record on certain tracks, and a bunch have a mix of them. Greg Hawkes, keyboards, saxophone, actually, which is really hard to tell, and backing vocals. Ben Orr on vocals and bass. Of course, the great Rick Ocasek on rhythm guitar and lead vocals, and Elliot Easton, the underrated great guitar player, on lead guitar and backing vocals. So that is the record. We're also going to talk about 4 bonus tracks after we talk about the record. But moving into the record itself, Panorama, there's actually a video for this song, even though it wasn't released as a single. There's like a spy video. It's a spoof of a spy film, and all the band are in it, and even Roy Thomas Baker appears in the video.
I've never seen that. I got to check that out. Never seen it.
And it was shown on MTV in the early days, but I didn't see it back then because I didn't have MTV way back then. Directed by early Devo video director Chuck Statler, because Rick liked the Devo videos, so he got Chuck Statler, who did a lot of stuff with Gerald Casale from Devo, to do this video for the Cars. And Panorama is almost 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Lead vocal by Rick. And Greg Hawkes is heavily featured on vocoder and keyboards on this song. He's the one doing Panorama that sounds like a robot, the robot voice, which is great. And you really hear Greg Hawkes when you listen to headphones or earbuds on this record. It's just a lot of ear candy on the keyboards. It's a really good rock song, and at the time, it was the longest Cars song. And I really like Ben Orr's bass fill at 4:51. He does this, I think it's a contrapuntal thing on the bass, just for a couple of seconds. But it's really good and sounds great in headphones. And of course, Elliot Easton on lead guitar on this song. Just his little guitar fills you hear throughout the song, especially at the end of the song. Panorama is a great rock song, and they should have released it as a single because it got airplay on video and rock radio. But for some reason, Elektra maybe thought it was too long. They'd never edited it down. Maybe Rick said, no, I won't let you edit it. Who knows? But really good rock song. Then we move on to the first single from the album, Touch and Go, a little under 5 minutes. Another Rick vocal, and every song on the proper album just written by Rick Ocasek. Now, the verses of this song use something that you probably know very well called a polymeter. And I always wondered why it sounded so strange, this song, on the verses. It's because the bass and the drums are playing the time signature in 5/4, like a progressive or jazz time signature. Meanwhile, the vocals, the keyboards, and the guitars are in 4/4. So it gives it a very off-kilter, like why does this sound so strange? It's catchy,
Feels
but
like it's kind of unsteady. Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
what am I listening to? But it makes you think like, why does it sound so strange yet catchy in an odd way? And
Mhm.
it's the time signature polymeter that you know
Yeah.
better than I do as a
Oh yeah.
musician. I was just a singer in a rock and roll band, but you're a drummer and a guitar player. So moving on with it, so that's why it sounds so off kilter in the verses. But then the choruses come in and they're very catchy and upbeat, maybe the most upbeat moment on the record. And of course, there was a video for this song, but the single edit is only 3 minutes and 41 seconds. So the first two
Right.
Cars videos were from this album, Panorama and Touch and Go.
Yeah.
And this is the most well known song from the album. And I don't even know how to bring this up, but John Lennon referenced this song in his last interview on December 8th of 1980. He was being interviewed and he brought up that car song, Touch and Go. It sounds like a 50s song.
I
And that's what I'm
totally
doing.
forgot about that. It's a great. I'm so glad you brought that up. I totally
And
forgot
he
about
brought it up in the interview and he said, that's what my song, Just Like Starting Over, is about. It's a throwback to the 50s, but it's brought into the 80s with the 80s production values.
that. Yeah. Yep.
So I think he was talking about the choruses where it's just happy and upbeat and buoyant. So John Lennon knew of the Cars and liked this song at
Yeah.
the time before
Mhm.
his unfortunate death, which I still remember so vividly back then. But
Same here.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't want to bring the show down. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No, no, it's okay. I remember
Wasn't
that too.
sure
Yeah.
really how to bring it up. So this song was the highest chart, actually is the only charting single in America from the album, reached number 37 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. Canada did better, number 16. Australia, where our friends are, Peter Kerr and Bicycle Legs, number 62. New Zealand, number 42. And this song might contain the perfect guitar solo. Elliot Easton's solo on this song is just incredible. It's so
Mhm.
melodic, it's so catchy. They were working on the song, I read. They're working on the song, and he went home and recorded it on a separate cassette and brought it into the studio. And Rick said, that's perfect. That'll do wonders for the song. And it's just such an amazing guitar solo. The fluidity, his melodicism, the way he hits those, like, I don't even know if it's like an Eddie Van Halen type trill like a little bit of a hammer on,
Yep. Hammer on. Yeah.
going
Mhm.
up or down the neck. Just amazing solo.
Yeah.
One of his best. And this guy, Elliot Easton, has some amazing solos throughout the Cars history.
Yeah. Definitely one of his highlights for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that solo. I wrote the perfect guitar solo in my notes. Now we're moving on to Give Me Some Slack, 3.5 minutes. Another Rick lead vocal. That's the first three songs. Rick Ocasek lead vocals
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
And Greg Hawkes plays some subtle sax during the choruses. And it's really hard to tell. I was listening because he's credited for saxophones on the album. I said, there's no sax on the album. Like the
Mhm.
first album, you hear him at the end of All Mixed Up playing sax.
Yes.
But
Yes.
here it's during the chorus and it's very subtle. It's
Yeah.
very low in the mix and it almost sounds like a keyboard, but it's Greg Hawkes on sax because he is a woodwinds player too. Easton's lead guitar solo on this song is really good. And this has some Rick obtuse, I wrote down, okay, this might be hard to say, Okasek's obtuse lyrics about living in New York City in the early 70s. It's a good song. It's a tight little rocker. It was the third single from the album, actually. No chart action. And I like Elliot Easton's tasty guitar playing at the end of the song. It's a good song, but it's not like a stellar, outstanding, upbeat Cars song. So that's probably why it didn't connect. It's just a little left of center, even more left of center than usual for the Cars.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So moving on to track 4, Don't Tell Me No, it was the second single from the record. No chart action, 4-minute song. And here you get the first Ben Orr lead vocal on the album. And I love his vocals on the song. This song definitely has David Robinson on real drums and electronic drums or treated drums. He might be going back to his Lynn or Sin drum, because you get
Mhm.
that almost like the way the live version of Good Times roll,
Yep.
but it's a
Yep.
little less stated here. But it's not a real drum, it's some kind of electronic drum. It's another upbeat rock tune. It is very dark lyrics. And I think the best thing about it is probably Ben Orr's vocal. And it's just you're waiting to hear that voice. And the fourth track, you finally get that voice.
Yes. Yes. You're waiting for it. Exactly.
So another different album where he didn't sing one of the first few songs like he did on the first two records. That's another difference on this album we didn't
Yeah.
discuss. And
Right.
then the last song on side one is the shortest song. Rick Ocasek back on lead vocals, a song called "Getting Through," little over 2.5 minutes. And to me, Greg Hawkes steals the show on this compact little nugget with his sound effect video game console sounding keyboards. When I listen to the Cars records, it
Yes.
reminds me of, I never owned a gaming system when I was a kid, way back in the 1800s, it seems. All my friends had ColecoVision, Atari, and I used to go to their houses to play the games. We'd listen to music or watch the baseball game. No, we couldn't watch the baseball game. We'd listen to music while we
Yeah.
played video games. That's what we did back then,
We used to do the same. Yes. Yep.
late 70s, early
Yep.
80s.
Yep.
It's a tri-state area thing, New York, New Jersey. So
It must be. I don't know.
he also has a subtle ear candy textures throughout on keyboards. So to me, this song is all about Greg Hawkes. It's a good song. It's a cute little nugget, but it's not known by
Right.
the general public as a cool car song, but I think it is. So
Right.
that's side one. Do you want to say anything about some of these songs?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that, I do think that I love the Panorama. I think is a cool way to start the record. I and there's a like you said, there's a lot of electronic drums going on, for sure. I was listening to an interview, and they were interviewing the band, and David Robinson. They said, "Hey, David, are you playing a lot of electronic drums on this?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of electronic everything on this album." That's what he said, which I thought was an interesting way to say it. But Panorama, like you said, with the machine robot vocals and that just sort of that kind of that it's sort of like a pulse almost. The whole song has this sort of pulse,
Do do
and I
do
just
do do do
yeah, yes,
do do
yes,
do do
exactly.
do do do. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, so it's just a it almost has like a Devo vibe to it or something, you know? It almost feels like a Devo track. And I think he was influenced by that band a little bit. Um, and Touch and Go, I just think is an amazing single. I think it's excellent. Still to this day, I love that track. I mean, Touch and Go could have been on Candio or the debut. To me, it's just kind of fits in those kind of that, and that's probably why it got so much play. It's probably the poppiest thing on the record.
Yep.
Um, like Give Me Some Slack. Like I like Give Me Some Slack quite a bit, and Elliot's doing some really cool stuff on that. I think you mentioned that he's doing some really cool guitar stuff on that track.
Yeah, just about every song he does.
Yeah, yeah. And it's sometimes it's a little subtle. You're kind of like, oh yeah, listen to that guitar thing he's doing. It's kind of cool. It's like it's in the mix somewhere. It's not like massively, it's not like a solo, but he's adding parts, which he's so good at. And then like you said, I love Ben Orr's vocal on "Don't Tell Me No." You're right. You're kind of waiting for it, and then you get it, he delivers on that track. It's my party down, 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 down. Oh yeah, it's a good, great vocal. Love it. So yeah, those are the highlights for me on side one. So
Okay, moving to side two. And before we do, I just want to say that I think this album is sort of Rick Ocasek's baby. He was influenced by a lot of minimalistic bands like Suicide, who I think
yeah,
he eventually produced, and he started producing other bands just to get his rocks off. And because he was such a studio guy, and much like Jeff Lynne, he would rather be in the studio creating than on the road touring. But it
right,
was a necessary evil, and Elektra, their record label, made the band go out and tour. You have to tour to make the money to sell the record. But he just loved being in the studio and producing. And he was very attracted to the minimalistic side of things, not having a lot of stuff. And it showed on this record. And I think that he wanted to do more of that. And the record label probably said to him, Rick, eventually after the record was out, it just went platinum. It didn't sell as many copies as the last two, didn't have many hit singles. I mean, the big single, Touch and Go, just barely scraped into the top 40 at number 37. So I think the label had to talk with him saying, we need the next record to be more upbeat, more poppy, more singles. So on the next record that we're going to talk about in the next episode, I think side one is more of a pop rock Cars album throwback to the first two records. And side two, he was a little more experimental.
Yeah.
And then eventually he got a record solo deal with Geffen. He started putting out his own solo records. So that's how he was able to be happy with the Cars is my bread and butter. That's the pop rock thing. And I'll produce other bands. He eventually produced Weezer and did wonders with them and for their career right out of the box with the debut Weezer album. He did Bad Brains, of all things, a hardcore reggae band, a hardcore, I guess, punk reggae band from Washington, D.C. Yeah. So he did a lot of stuff over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And his solo career, too. You can even do a whole separate episode or series about his solo records because they're definitely different from the Cars records for the most part, I would say.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah.
So that's what I feel happened. Just the way he went, he started being a producer, made solo records, and then the Cars was the pop rock thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's pretty accurate.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So moving on to side two, it starts out really good 4.5-minute song. Rick on the vocals here, Misfit Kid. I'm the American misfit kid, still wondering what I did. I'm on the inside, taking a fast ride.
Yeah.
And it's another mix of real and electronic drums here by Robinson. Too brief, but a really good Elliot Easton guitar solo on this song. And it has the Rick Ocasek outsider lyrics take the center stage, and nice band arrangements on this song. Some cool spacey synth work from Greg Hawkes again. And my favorite lyric on this song, quote, I get cornflakes, unquote. That is so Rick Ocasek.
Yes, it is.
And then at the end, he says, I get the cornflakes. It's just, what the heck? Who brings up cornflakes in a rock song? Only Rick Ocasek. That's his genius.
He is.
Now we move on to what I think is a magical song on this record. A little over 3 minutes. Ben Orr on the lead vocals once again. Down Boys. And Down Boys is such a good song. You get Orr's vocals, the delivery, and his bass playing on this song are really good too. To me, he steals the show on this song. And he showcases Ocasek's lyrics. My favorite little phrase, I guess, on this song is, quote, oscillation in shame, end quote. Who uses the word oscillation in a rock song? Come on.
Yep.
And then the couplet where Ben Orr sings Rick's lyrics, quote, you were trying to be hysterical and I still ain't laughing, end quote. I just love that line. Always cracks me up. It's such a put down. Like, you think you're funny? Well, I'm not laughing. You're not.
Yeah, I
love that line.
I think Cars lyrics are so underrated. They really are.
And they're so weird. So that's the word, obtuse. I think I used it earlier. Such obtuse lyrics.
Yep.
And Greg Hawkes, of course, has some great, subtle, stellar keyboard work, including this during the guitar solo when Elliot Easton is doing the solo. There's like this hanging synth note. It's like you just want to grab it out of the air. Only Greg Hawkes could play that. And I put Elliot Easton's crisp guitar work, add to the frenzy, where you get that hanging synth note. Down Boys is just a really good song. If you don't know this song, you want to hear a great song, besides the title track, Panorama, I think Down Boys is stellar. Love that song.
Yep.
And then it moves into this very strange avant-garde song, very minimalistic, called You Wear Those Eyes. Hair under 5 minutes. And this is a rare Cars song. It might be the only one in the catalog where you get Ben Orr and Rick Ocasek singing. And they're trading
Yes.
off parts in the song, which is very unusual for the Cars. Either the lead vocal is Ben or it's Rick. And here it's both of them. So I wrote down minimalistic and downbeat, yet everyone shines on this song. Or is godlike with his delivery of Ocasek's lyrics. Easton's solo shines on this song. And my favorite lyrical couplet on this song, quote, you do the pogo without the bounce. You got the name I can't pronounce, end quote. And that lyric always cracked me up. And you could think, who did he end up marrying or getting together with and marrying for decades a few years later? Paulina Portskova. You
Yeah.
got the name I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Very prophetic line, but I love that line. And I love Ben Orr's delivery of that line.
Yeah.
And like I said, it might be the only Car song with alternating vocals from Orr and Ocasek. And the whole ending, the extended vocal instrumental coda where they're singing Just Take Your Time, It's
Mhm.
Not Too Late, and you get that nice musical bed underneath it, and you get Easton's guitar, and even his solo. Is he using an EBO or some kind of effect? Just that solo sounds off center.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, he's got some sort of effect on that,
Okay.
some sort of pedal. Like I don't know if it's a flange or I don't know, something like that.
It just sounds very different and catches your ear like, what? That sounds very different.
Yeah.
So that adds to the whole minimalism of the song, just different. And
Yeah.
I think it's a really great deep cut. So Down Boys track 7, You Wear Those Eyes track 8 are great. Then we get to Running to You, which is just Ben Orr alone on the vocal. I wrote another cool vocal delivery from Mr. Orr. Hawks is the man on the keyboards. This might be the record's weakest song, but it's still a good song. Like if I
Mhm.
was ranking the songs on the record, I'd probably put this at number 10, but it's not a bad song, just my least favorite on the record. Nice keyboard solo by Greg Hawkes here. And you get some nice Circus Calliope sounds by him too. And once again, David Robinson on real and treated drums, Lynn Sin drums I put down with question marks. It just doesn't, it's not natural acoustic drums. It's extra stuff on it. Like you said, the interview with him, everything on here is electronic. It's
Yeah.
an electronic record, but that's probably what Rick wanted because we're going to get to a later album where there's maybe one guitar solo on it. And I have a friend who knows, who's in the music biz, and he actually knows Elliot Easton. And he said, Elliot, why are there no guitar solos on this record? He said, well, that's because that's what Rick wanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's Rick's band,
Yep.
just like Triumph was always Gilmore's band. There are
Right.
certain leaders or sort of owners of the band. And that's the way Rick wanted this album to sound. He wanted it to sound different. And it sort of, I think, alienated the public a little. That's why it didn't do as well. It's just not that total ear candy from the first two records. So
Right.
moving on to the
Right.
last song on side 2, before we get into the bonus tracks after, 3.5 minute song, Rick Ocasek vocal, quite possibly my favorite song from the record. Great album closer, up
Yeah.
and down.
Yeah.
And it has great guitar work from Elliot Easton from beginning to end. His riffs and lead work make this song for me, as does the pre-chorus. When the pre-chorus comes in, doom, 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 doodle, doodle. He's going, it happens all the time, still hanging on the line. Just that part.
Yep.
There's that slight change, and it grabs you, and it's a great pre-chorus right there.
Oh yeah.
You get an excellent Elliot Easton guitar solo, but it's very short, maybe too short. I wish it were longer, but it's a short song. And just the way it ends, now, now, now,
Yeah.
now, and that's the
Yeah.
end of the album.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it leaves. I love playing that song multiple times in a row. I love Up and Down. I think it's a great way to end side 2 and the whole album.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think that's some great commentary there from on that side. I mean,
Thanks.
it's funny. I was under the false impression that the side 2 on this record wasn't as strong. You know, sometimes you have these weird impressions for
Yep.
some reason, and there's really nothing behind it. You just think that, like maybe you heard it one day and it didn't hit you or something. And it's like, listening again for this, I was like, man, what am I talking about? Side two is like pretty killer. Like you said, Down Boys is like one of my, I love that track. I've got to, I've got to concur on that one, that is just an awesome rocker. Misfit Kid is a cool open. I mean, Misfit Kid is kind of a more of like sort of a poppier song, but I enjoy it. I think it's quite good. You Wear Those Eyes, man. That is like the sleeper track on this album. Like I forgot how good that song is. And it kind of, and I think I mentioned to you, we were messaging back and forth, and I mentioned that this song to me almost feels like the precursor to like Drive or something, where it almost feels like it could be on Heartbeat City or something. Like there's the way that whole "you take your time," that just, I don't know. There's something about that like you said, the at the end it just keeps going on, and it kind of reminds me of that kind of poppier Heartbeat City-esque kind of song. Um, and then Running to You, like you said, is kind of pedestrian, but then Up and Down, great closer. I'm with you on that. I think that one's like really that whole, well, come on, come on. I just love. I think it's a great closer to the record. So yeah, so side two is no slouch. No, it's not. It's not. It's just as equal almost as side one. So there you go.
Sometimes when we were younger, I mean, I'm guilty of it too, and I've heard Pete Pardo talk about this when he first got moving pictures because they played so many songs from side one by Rush on the radio. He only listened to side one. And then a while later, he went to side two.
Yeah.
And my friends and
Yeah.
I were that way with that Rush album too. And also, I would say Styx the Grand Illusion. When I first got that, I would play side one because I heard the Grand Illusion on the radio, Come Sail Away on the radio, and
Mhm.
Fooling Yourself.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I played side two and I discovered Castle Walls, Miss America, which may have gotten some radio airplay, and definitely, oh, the Tommy Shaw song that just flew out of my head,
Lost in the Wilderness? No.
Man in the Wilderness.
Man in the
Thank you.
Wilderness. Yeah.
And to me, Man in the Wilderness and Castle Walls, two of the best Styx songs ever. But so it's
Yeah.
sort of, I understand what you're saying, where you think side two, it's not that good. And then you play it, it's like, oh, I forgot how great these songs are. Or I'm discovering these songs now for the first time.
Yeah, it's almost like a rediscovery of sorts. Yeah. So, but you're right, Castle Walls, killer track. Anyway, we also talk about that record, so just go back in the
That's right.
in my videos, we discuss that album in detail, so check it out.
And to do a fast, shameless plug, I've been doing a series with Grant, our friend Grant Arthur, on Grant's Rock Warehouse. And we just had a live episode last week where we're doing the Styx albums, the whole catalog, as twofers in one episode. So last week we did Equinox and Crystal Ball. And next month in March, we are doing, of course, The Grand Illusion and Pieces of Eight. So shameless
Nice.
plug, the Styx series on Grant's Rock Warehouse. So check that out.
Check it out for sure, for sure.
Thanks. Should we
And
move on to the extra songs on the
yeah,
reissue?
yeah, go for it.
Can you see them on the back of your 2017 reissue on
Yes,
Rhino?
Shooting for You. Yep, yep. Where is
Oh,
it?
they're at the bottom there.
I don't know if you can read that or not. Shooting for
Yes,
You.
Shooting for You, Be My Baby, The Edge, not about the dude from U2, and Don't Go to Pieces. So we're going to discuss those. Sorry about that. Couldn't
That was good. I
resist.
like that. Not about the U2 guy.
It wasn't planned. It was
Yeah.
spontaneous. Shooting for You is a 4-minute song that features Ben Orr on vocals, definitely drum machine. You get the Ben Orr, great Ben Orr vocal, and there's more minimalism here, I wrote down. The chorus opens it up a bit for more melody. It's very moody and ethereal, I think, this song. And Ben Orr's voice to me is buried a little bit. So I'm not sure if it's a demo because I don't have this reissue. So I don't know if it's like it's a demo or it's the full version that Rick wanted, but
Mhm.
just Ben Orr's vocals seem lower than most other Cars songs. And Hawk has some exquisite keyboard sounds and textures throughout the song. That's what I have about Shooting for You. Now, the next song, Be My Baby, I don't really want to discuss now because It's just a demo of Maybe Baby from the next album, Shake It Up. So we'll get more into that whole song next time on the next episode that we do.
Mhm.
Moving on, the song The Edge is a 3.5 minute song, another Ben Orr vocal here. And this is synth pop. That's the name of the game here on this song. This is even more synth laden to me than Shooting for You, but it's also more driving and upbeat. It's less dour and less sad than Shooting for You. And the way Orr sings, when he sings The Edge on the chorus, he seems to be channeling Rick Ocasek at some points. And I was wondering, is Elliot Easton even on this song? Is he
Yeah.
just is he playing the rhythm guitar? Because I just assumed that was Rick.
Yeah, I don't
The
think he's even on it. I really
Yeah,
don't. I'm with you. I don't think he's on it.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
But Fear Not, True Believers, the next song was a B-side. So the song Don't Go to Pieces, 4 minutes, another great Ben Orr lead vocal on here. And this is the only song on, I guess, on in this time period that Greg Hawkes co-wrote this song with Rick Ocasek. This was the B-side of Don't Tell Me No and Give Me Some Slack. And it's a fully formed, upbeat rocker. And I used to own the 45 of this, so I knew this song back in the day. Because I was smart enough, somehow I learned that there were extra songs on the singles that weren't on the records. I don't even
Yeah.
remember how I learned that. So I used to go to the record stores, and if it had an unreleased song, I would buy the single, even though I had the full vinyl already.
Right.
I think the reason this song was not on the record because it's very happy and upbeat, and it has that old cars snap bopping. It has that great sound, that happy cars sound.
Yes.
So that's, I think, why they left it off the record. I put down sterling chorus, great backing vocals. They're all singing, "Don't Go to Pieces, but baby," and that little stuttering thing, just like back in the day with the Who and BTO. It's another earworm. It's ear candy. It
Mhm.
just makes you, oh, that sounds good, and you got to sing along, but baby. So I
Yeah.
love that part. Elliot Easton is excellent on this song, and he's the one who's singing the backing vocals on the verses. That's his voice alone doing the backing
Okay.
vocals, which is
All right.
rare on a Cars song. And his
Yeah.
guitar work here, the solo, his riffs throughout, great. I've always dug this song. So don't go to pieces. Don't sleep on that song. Check it out. It's on YouTube. And of course, it's on the streaming services.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just going to concur and say Don't Go to Pieces is the essential bonus track.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what you've said it already, but I'm just confirming it because when I listen to these, I'm like, yeah, Don't Go to Pieces is the one that really sticks out as like oh wow, that's a good track. Like that could have been on a record.
I'm surprised Elektra didn't say, hey, put that song on the record. That's a hit. You'll have a
Yeah.
hit. But
Yeah.
maybe Ocasek stood his ground and said, no,
I
that's
was gonna
not going to
say
be
I can
on the
hear
record.
Rick being like, no, we've already done that. That's kind of like the last record. I'm not, I'm going for a new sound with this new record. So who knows? I mean, and Rick can be. I think he's can be a pretty obstinate guy. Like if that's what he wants, he's not going to budge, kind of thing.
Yep,
That's kind of
I
the
agree.
impression, it's the impression I get of him. But yeah, I mean, and like you said, we talked about this before we started, but the "Be My Baby," it was funny because I was listening to it and I was like, it was like playing in the background. All of a sudden, I went, I swear I've heard this one before. Like, is this really an unreleased track? Because I swear I know this song. So more to come on that. Because they kept doing the Be My," and I'm like, I recognize this song. Like, what is the song? I swear this is another song. But sure enough, it is. But yeah, I think this is an excellent. I mean, with the bonus tracks and everything. I mean, it's a solid listen. It's if you're a
Yep.
Cars fan, it's interesting to watch like rankings of the Cars because people sometimes put this pretty low, and it's like when the rubber hits the road, I think I would have it higher. I
I
think.
think I did on my Cars ranking. Check that out on Cretan Classics. I think it was my first album ranking
Was
video.
it?
The Cars, yeah.
Okay. And so do you remember was it number three?
I think it was fourth.
Fourth. Okay. Okay.
It was higher than Heartbeat City. I know that.
Yeah.
Because to me, Heartbeat City hasn't aged as well because of the production, but we'll get to that in the near future.
I couldn't agree more. And like you said, more to come on that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say that we covered it. I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about this record? I mean, the difficult third Dark Horse Cars record.
I think it's a really good record. I bought it 45, just about 45 years ago because it came
Yeah.
out, what, August of 1980.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
we're in February of 2025. So it's
Yes.
almost 45 years ago I bought it. I always liked this record. I don't have a problem with it, but I could see why the general public didn't take to it. And I think it went platinum just off the Touch and Go single and off the fact that it's the Cars, it's a new record. Everyone went out and bought it. Just it didn't have the legs that the first two albums have.
Yeah, it's the momentum they had. It's like they say the, Don't Look Back by Boston. People just bought that right away because it was just the momentum from that first record. And I think they had a lot of momentum at this time in 1980. But yeah, as this is my original copy that I bought back in the day. I think it might have been 80. I think it was 1980 or 81. I can't remember when I bought this. I bought it pretty quick after it came out. But as our friends Bicycle Legs would say, it's in pretty good nick. It's still in pretty
Nice.
good nick. So yeah, and I played it and it's still the vinyl still sounds, I mean, and honestly, I wanted to mention the production. I do love Roy Thomas Baker. I when he's gone, I do miss him, and that's more to come on that. But I really feel like his production fits the Cars so well, and I do think that this album still sounds great. It's just the
Yes.
sonics of it. I just think it's just, I mean, things just pop out here and there, and it just the drum sound. I love his drum sound, and yeah. So anyway, just wanted to mention
But
that.
it's a headphone album. It's definitely a headphone album just to hear Greg Hawk's work. And there's one song, and I should have written it down, where Elliot Easton is doing a good solo, and you hear Rick do this a couple of times on the rhythm guitar. And I never noticed that. And I said, oh, that sounds so cool. I should have written down which track it was. It
Yeah.
may be Up and Down. It was one of the later tracks
Hmm.
where there's a great Elliot Easton solo, and then Rick Ocasek on the rhythm guitar just adds this eh. Where'd that come from? And
Well,
that's what's great about headphones. You just hear stuff you've never heard if you're listening in your car or just to the radio or a boom box, whatever, your stereo.
yeah. Yeah, and what's great is that, sometimes keyboards and guitar can, occupy the same sonic space and kind of get in each other's way and like butt heads, like, always talk about like Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman used to be like because they
Yep.
got get in each other's way a little bit. But like these songs don't feel that way at all. They feel like you can hear guitar, keyboard, like Misfit Kid, like the one that do 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 do, and you hear the guitar chugging along,
Yep.
and it's all equal, like equal. Everything, the mix is just so well done. It's just so perfect. I
And
just
I didn't even mention those really cool hand claps in Misfit Kid.
Yes,
You get
exactly.
those occasionally throughout the song. It's
There's all
not
these
overused like
little sonic tricks and little like ear candy things as always with the Cars, right? They always have the ear candy going on. So,
and I think it's down to Greg Hawkes. Just he uses very different sounds than most keyboard players, and it's probably also Roy Thomas Baker producing. I
yeah.
think those are the magic ingredients where Easton and Hawkes don't butt heads.
Right. Right, exactly. So no, I think that they knew what they were doing. It's very obvious. It's very apparent. They knew what they were doing, and these mixes and still sound great. Even the original cut of the album still sound amazing. So yeah. So I mean, I would say that we covered it. I mean, Davey, as always, phenomenal job. I don't think it's
Thank
hard for
you.
you because you're such a huge Cars fan, so it's not that difficult, right?
Yes, since the debut album, since '78, I heard it on the radio, went out and bought the record, like I said on that episode.
Yeah, yeah. So you've been a Cars fan from day one.
It's a
So
long time.
pretty awesome, pretty awesome. So, well, thanks again for joining me tonight. It's
Thanks for
really fun.
having me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
could I just say my latest video up on my channel, Cretan Classics, I reviewed the new Dream Theater record, Parasomnia. Very different from the Cars. We're talking progressive metal.
Yeah, but absolutely check it out. I mean, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of people jumping on that, that's and reviewing it, and it's of course because it's a big release for a lot of people for sure.
Yep, with Mike Portnoy back on the Skins,
That's
baby.
yeah, that's big news. That's big news. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, check out, of course, check out Cretan Classics, and I will. That's Davey's channel, and I'll put a link as always to at the bottom of this video. So
Thank you.
definitely check out his channel. He's got a lot of great content. Um,
And in the springtime, Tom and I spoke about it last year. Tom is going to be on Cretan Classics. We're going to do a top 12 songs of, shh, don't say yet,
yeah,
top 12 tunes of a very cool band. We're going to do that in the springtime.
there's a teaser for you.
Yes. And it's not the Cars, by the way. And I'm going to be on Bicycle Legs channel a couple of times coming up in the month of March. I'm going to be on Rock Daydream Nation, Grant's Rock Warehouse for the Stick series. So I'm all over the place, just like you are.
Yeah, you can't miss Davey. He's all over the place, man, and for a good reason. He knows his music. So,
Thank you.
yep, yep. So, anyway, if you're with us for this long, we appreciate it. You must be a Cars fan, and you're right. You're our kind of people. That's all I can say.
Yes.
So yeah, so give it a like if you like what you see, and hit subscribe. I always have to say that. Hit the subscribe button. A lot of people don't do it. You watch the video, you really enjoy it. Maybe you give it a like, you like, but then you forget to hit the subscribe button. So that's important for all YouTubers. So hit the subscribe button. Do it to Davey's channel too. So
Thank you.
yeah. So anyway, we appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time on Curlis Mania. See you.
Thanks. Bye bye.